About for now. Let's throw things into the studio.
I'm going to throw one thing back to you, though, Natalie. We've got a bit of a winter wonderland. Looks like a blizzard outside our studios right now because there's enough cold air mixing in that we've got this burst of snow. I don't suppose you can see it yet from where you are, though?
No, it's just some light flurries right now, but we were up on our social media, our phones, reading tweets from people in the Southwest, all talking about the snow, the thunder snow. So I know that it's making its way toward us here.
Got the radar coming up in just a second. Thanks, Natalie. The snow is east of London all the way through to West Toronto right now. Provincial flood watch ties in with what Natalie was talking about. It is going to be rain. I know you're looking out your window right now thinking snow. It's coming again, or, oh my goodness, it's here. There is a rainfall warning for southern Ontario. The low is moving in. It is quite a dynamic low. Temperatures, if you can imagine. I'll explain why we're getting snow in the Golden Horseshoe right now. This is Virga. It's actually not reaching the ground, but this area here is getting some heavy bursts of snow down through the Hamilton region. And the reason, down in southern Ohio, temperatures are in the 20s right now. The 20s. There's a massive temperature contrast. It's fueling a lot of convection, fueling a lot of air rising and pulling down, essentially, if you will, with heavy downpours. Snow is coming down, no chance for it to melt. So lightning to our south, warm air to our south, a burst of snow. It'll be done within the next hour or two, and then it'll be all rain. Heavy rain overnight, strong wind to follow on Friday. A major storm system is on the way. Also on the way, Rachel, there are a number of problem areas. We'll have the commute with her right after the locals. Well, close to the last hour, let's zero in on the GTA. We've got Rachel coming up with your commute. The snow has reached about the 427, so the west end of Toronto. This is all Virga ahead of the low. It's really light, not reaching the ground. Here's where it starts to get interesting. Around Toronto and Orangeville and moving into Caledon, where Natalie Thomas has been joining us from, snowfall. And it's a relatively heavy burst of snow down towards Hamilton and Dundas, and then the rain is right behind it. And it's so warm, Cincinnati, southern Ohio, is close to 20 degrees right now. The temperature contrast is fueling convection, is fueling a heavy burst of snow before we go over to rain, and we'll be doing that in the next hour or so. Rachel, there is a provincial flood watch in place. We are expecting 30 to, in some places, 45 millimeters of rain, and the wind tomorrow. That'll be tomorrow's commute challenge. How about today?
Well, again.
Yeah, really good point, Natalie. We've got just a messy situation. And I'm going to take a look at the radar for our viewers now. Snow in blue, and a lot of this to the north is Virga. In other words, it's not actually reaching the ground. I'll just stop here. There's a little bit of a bullseye. That's to do with how the radar is reading the precipitation in the clouds. It's not perfectly circular, but it is snow, and it is rain to the southwest of Kitchener. Temperatures are near zero. Hamilton's had a quick 1 centimeter of heavy wet snow. South of the border, it's, well, I'll show you in a second. You look at this, we're in the bullseye of the snowfall right now. For 1 to 2 hours, but with the deep contrast in temperatures, +2 in Toronto and almost 20 down in Cincinnati. There's a lot of convection here, a lot of air rising, a lot of overturning and instability in the atmosphere, and there's a lot of cold air aloft. So that's snow that's falling. Go back to a couple of things that Natalie highlighted. Icy surfaces are possible. Once temperatures warm up and we get into the heavy rain tonight, that won't be as much of an issue, but this will become an issue. Provincial flood watch, southern Ontario. Why? Melting snow, rain, and also ice jam and overland flooding because of the ice breakup, because of the aforementioned heavy rain and snow melt. And by tomorrow afternoon, we'll be out of the rain. I'll let you look at these a little bit, but your local forecast will break it more down for you. It is cooler in the long range. The other thing to mention is strong winds coming up late tomorrow. And coming up in a moment, Rachel.
This weather.
Active weather, big snowstorm in northern Ontario, freezing rain coming to Ottawa again for tonight. And yes, those are rainfall warnings. Don't adjust your set. It's February the 20th. I just had to check my calendar there. So if it's raining, what exactly is this? What is that? What is this, John DeGarris? I assure you I can explain. There's a lot of convection with this low, and as a result, we're starting off as snow. There's a lot of lift going on, and there's a lot of very warm air just to our south. So that temperature contrast really helping to drive the convection and drive a heavy burst of what is snow around the GTA and the Golden Horseshoe right now. To the west, down towards Woodstock, it's rain. London as well. Then there's a bit of a drier area, and then we'll see more rain and plenty of it coming tonight. But none of this is falling. If anything's hitting the ground, it's very, very light up in cottage country right now. Big concern about flooding potential. There's a provincial flood watch because we're going to get 30 or more millimeters of rain. We're going to get some wind to follow. There could be some thunderstorms tonight, and with milder temperatures, there will be snow melt, which changes the river flows, increases them, and will cause some ice breakup and maybe some ice jam flooding as well. The warm front moves in this evening. That's when we get our warmest air overnight, and very strong southwest winds. You can see them getting to 40 and then 60 kilometers an hour. Possibly sustained at 60, certainly gusts to 60 and maybe even stronger. Rachel, colder air, weekend forecast is coming up. Yeah, and we're looking at the wintry scene. Thanks, Natalie, outside our Oakville studios right now, and it's almost a whiteout just across the short distance of the parking lot. Looking at temperatures, even though they're close to zero, it's +1 at Pearson and St. Catharines. It's 0 in Hamilton right now. This entire area is getting wet snow, and it's damp, so it feels colder. So you're not alone. Natalie, not quite sure what to wear today. You're dressing for that warmth because this is a burst of heavy snow, and then behind it, and the back edge of it is right at Kitchener-Waterloo, still to the west of Hamilton, towards, but not as far as Woodstock. That's where the drier area is. Once we get there, and it'll take about an hour or two for it to work through this burst of snow in your part of the GTA. Once that goes through, we'll be into drier air as far as precipitation is concerned, and then temperatures going up and rain and heavy rain at times coming tonight. Look at Cincinnati, 19 degrees, almost 20 degrees warmer than Toronto. That's a short distance away. It's this temperature range that's helping to drive the convection and the heavy bursts of precipitation we're getting. It's snow right now. It's rain coming. That's why there's a provincial flood watch in place. Warm front moves in, the rain overnight, the risk of thunderstorms, and then tomorrow the rain moves out. Light rain for the morning commute. Strong winds will be with us as temperatures drop. I'll be back in a moment, and this time with Rachel to look at your commute. Studios, though, it is coming down in that first heavy burst. No, that's not a time lapse that we saved from ages ago. That is what's happening right now. I'll show you the radar in just a second. It'll be followed by rain and freezing rain. Freezing rain to our north. We've been concerned about maybe the sidewalks and untreated areas, roads, perhaps getting pretty icy tonight. But now we get that snow blanket down. We've got an insulating effect. And if I pause the latest radar here, snowfall, back edge of it is Kitchener and just to the west of Hamilton. So not much longer, but really confounding and compounding a busy commute. Rachel is looking at snowy roads in parts of the GTA and bare roads in other parts of the GTA. There's a provincial flood watch because of the rain that's coming, the warmer temperatures that are coming. You probably saw your own garden snowpacks go down a little bit this morning compared to yesterday morning. I certainly saw that myself. 30 millimeters of rain for the GTA, more in the southwest as the warm front comes through this evening. Expect some thunderstorms, and then notice the scale. We get up to 40 kilometer an hour winds sustained tomorrow, much stronger gusts that could be near 100 or 90 along the lake shoreline. So Rachel, lots of active weather. This is we thought we would maybe be saying goodbye to snow, but not just yet, eh, Natalie? Is it fluffy or is it pretty wet out there?
Yes, it's quite snowy, and you go in to warm up in your car and then it all melts and you go back out there, so it's not ideal right now.
Yeah, okay, it's that kind of an afternoon. Oh, and there's a look at the roads and the plows and the trucks going by. Thanks, guys. Snowfall, it's falling apart around Kitchener. It's very light around Hamilton. We're almost finished. If you haven't had the snow yet and you're joining us from the GTA, 1 to 2 hours, and then it stops, and then we wait with showery, damp conditions for the heavier rain to come tonight. What's driving this? Look at the difference between Toronto and Cincinnati. That's southern Ohio. That's just south of Windsor, and that's a 20-degree spread just about right there. The temperatures, the thermal contrast, if you will, really helping to illustrate the strength of this low, the potency of it, and also helping to drive the convection, which in turn is helping to drive some of the snowfall. Interesting, isn't it, that the mild temperature range should help drive colder associated precipitation like snow. And then we've got a provincial flood watch, southern Ontario, because the rain is going to be re-intensifying, or the precipitation rather, overnight. And there's a snapshot. Once that cold front comes through, we'll get into the strongest winds. Most of the heavy rain will be done by the morning. Expect still some light rain for your commute and powerful winds in the afternoon. So a windy storm. The center goes north, and then the fronts swing out and bring yet another storm to Atlantic Canada. Talk about weather-weary Canadians. We'll look at that story coming up in a moment on Force of Nature. Meanwhile, as we look ahead, we are cooling off next week, and we start to cool down dramatically tomorrow as we dry up but get windy. Too, isn't it? Especially if you've got some of those faux fur trims and so on. It's that kind of a night. You know, if you're heading out there, if you love the snow, if the kids love the snow, send them out by all means. Be prepared for soggy doggies when they come back in. They're going to be wet and they're going to get cold pretty fast because it's a damp, heavy, wet snow. That's the nature of it. And then look at this. Freezing rain in the north, rain in the south. We've got warnings for both. Ontario into quite a storm. Snowstorm in northern Ontario. 30 to 40 centimeters of snow. There's a visual on that. We have had a quick couple of centimeters, a slushy centimeter here and there, all through the Golden Horseshoe. See how the back edge of the precipitation now is kind of breaking up. Northwest of Kitchener, over towards Stratford, a little bit of snow. Rain on the Lake Huron shorelines, and rain starting to move into the city of Toronto. There's still some snow on the west side and the east side, and it's just because we've had so much energy with this storm system, really potent, lots of hot air just to our south, like 20 degrees in southern Ohio. That's helping to drive convection, bursts of heavy snow, and lightning as well, down towards Long Point, Windsor, and Blenheim, southern Ontario. There's heavy rain in the forecast. It's going to fill in the overnight. So Thursday overnight taking us through to pre-dawn Friday, the heaviest rain for this part of Ontario, the GTA Golden Horseshoe. Rachel, 30 millimeters of rain, followed by strong winds tomorrow. Hard to believe when you look at that to know that we're going to get some thunderstorms tonight. In fact, we've already had thunderstorms in southern Ontario a couple times today, early and more recently. Good to see you. Suzanne Leonard with the team. Rachel's coming up with traffic. We've had Natalie and Mark Robinson both out in the field today. A little bit of snow back up towards Listowel, clearing Kitchener, still moving through Milton and Mississauga and up towards Caledon. And then the back edge of this blue snow, it's drier air, relatively speaking. Precipitation will ease up before the rain intensifies tonight. Driving the burst of snow is actually this very dynamic temperature pattern. There's quite a thermal gradient, as we call it, almost 20 degrees, the spread between Toronto and southern Ohio, Cincinnati. That's driving a lot of convection, which in turn is driving some heavy bursts of wet snow. That's at the leading edge of the system. Then there's rain tonight, and that's why there's a provincial flood watch all the way through southern Ontario because of rain on the way, because of snow melt, rising rivers, faster flowing rivers, and that means also ice breakup, ice cover breakup, ice jams, and possible overland flooding. It's not going to last all that long, but these are some considerations. And if you're a homeowner, you want to make sure that your downspout is free to flow. You haven't got any areas that might be prone to flooding or letting water into the basement. The front goes through quickly. Watch that wind scale pick up to 40 kilometers an hour. Sustained. That's the red zone. Tomorrow, it'll spread through southern Ontario. It'll be a hang on to the wheel kind of commute home tomorrow. I think tomorrow morning's commute will still be wet, but most of the heavy rain falls tonight. Tomorrow morning, you'll be dealing with really thick, slushy puddles as you head out to work. The temperature will drop from 6 pre-dawn to 4 and then probably average around 2 tomorrow afternoon. With the wind, with the dampness in the air, it's going to feel colder than that. And then we're drier but breezy on Saturday, colder but less breezy Sunday. It'll feel like -10 and we're chillier again next week. So that's a heads up. We've got to look around the world coming up in a moment.
Snow to be driving in.
Yeah, I know what you mean. The thick slush, Natalie, and the roads, they're not always treated at the early stages. What's it looking like behind you right now in the next few hours? Thanks, Natalie. And as she mentioned, just a couple of centimeters down, but it doesn't take much for us to lose a little bit of traction if the road surface is untreated, not to mention pedestrians. So take note. We will have a different challenge for pedestrians once this snow melts, along with all the other snow that we've had, and it'll be a slow process, but it's really going to get a good kick at it tonight because milder air is on the way. Just been looking at the traffic cameras with Rachel and all the various weather observation stations at airports. There's a heavy burst of snow in Markham right now. This dot denotes downtown Toronto. Rachel's seeing some snow around and east of the deep Is that right, Rachel? Snow around and east of the DVP. So it's kind of contrary to what we're seeing right here. You can see a bit of snow on the east side of the GTA, a suggestion of rain to our north. Bottom line, rain is coming in, and what's left of the snow, not much at this point. We've had this big temperature contrast between Toronto and southern Ohio, just highlighting the almost 20-degree spread that is still in place. And that gradient, that clash, that contrast really helped to fuel some strong convection and some heavy bursts of snow today. Then it's rain tonight with a provincial flood watch, large storm system, snowstorm in northern Ontario, overnight the heavy rain, Friday morning light rain, and Friday afternoon through the evening very strong winds picking up. So a lot to come. I think we're going to see quite a lot of fog tonight and tomorrow before. I was just mesmerized looking off camera here at the TV before the winds pick up. The wind will mix out the atmosphere, get rid of the fog. Why fog? We're going to have a lot of melting snow. Did you see your snowpack go down? I got home last night and I looked out and I thought, ooh. And then this morning in the daylight, I saw it had gone down quite a bit. That's because of we hit 8 in downtown Toronto yesterday. 8 degrees and snowing today? How can this be? This is Canada. This is what happens, especially late winter. We start to get a bit more transitional. We've got cold air from the north, snowstorm in northern Ontario, but this milder air is really pushing up from the U.S. south. It is 20 degrees in southern Ohio. It is snowing still around parts of the GTA. There's rain to our northwest and east, and the rain will take over along with thunderstorms overnight tonight. We had some rumbles early this morning, more around Point Pelee and Leamington and over towards Long Point. That's the lightning. And here's the flood watch, a provincial flood watch issued by the province, southern half of the province. And that's because we're going to see rain and snow melt and some ice breakup as well. So overland flooding becomes a possibility. Certainly a lot of flooding and ponding around people's properties. Rachel, we'll take a look at the local forecast with weekend temperatures in a second. But this is a pretty significant and rather intense storm. Wet tonight, windy tomorrow as temperatures drop.
Absolutely, Suzanne. And
massive area of low pressure. You know, it stretches from northern Ontario with a snowstorm all the way down through the Great Lakes states and through Kentucky, Tennessee with possible tornadoes today. Where are we? Well, in the midst of this, southern Ontario is under a provincial flood watch. Great that you're here. Time to break down this intense late winter hints of spring storm. Typical this time of year, we start to get a lot of warm air advection, a lot of warm air moving in simply from the U.S. south. So that is going to help speed up the snow melt, mean that we get more rain than any other type of precipitation with this storm system. And that's why the province has issued a flood watch for the region. There's lots of snow on the ground, snowpacks at least 30 centimeters in many areas. And with temperatures rising tonight, snow will be melting. By the way, that moisture will also add to some fog as well, and rain moving in, and that'll make the snowpacks really sodden. There will also be some localized flooding because of melting snow and rain, and the flood watch is for waterways. So as far as your property is concerned, I'll just remind you, to have a look if there are any areas that are low-lying that are prone to flooding, clearing the downspouts, knowing where your catch basins are for drainage. These are all really good things to think about tonight before the heavy rain moves in. Now, we have had bursts of thick snow. Okay, let's take one more look at it, shall we? Outside our Oakville studios, and you can see why. I mean, it wasn't a lot of snow, but sometimes it doesn't take much. As this warm front lifts in, everything goes over to rain. By the way, if you're traveling tonight, it is going to be some freezing rain. Ottawa and north of Muskoka, and the snowstorm is up here, north of basically Sault Ste. Marie. Heaviest rain for us is overnight. Thunderstorms embedded, and then the winds pick up behind the cold front. Light rain for the morning, easing to showers, and very strong winds. Sustained winds, 40 kilometers an hour. For some areas around the lakeshore, we will see the strongest wind gusts, maybe 90 kilometers an hour, and our temperatures dropping and then even colder on the weekend. Coming up, I'll show you the weekend temperatures. Plus, we'll take you to Newfoundland. Oh, thanks, Jacqueline. Interesting, isn't it? The connection between snow and temperatures and fog and melt. Oh, we'll be seeing our snow on the ground melting quite a bit coming up. A snapshot of what is generally 30 centimeters or more in many parts of southern Ontario. It is Thursday. It's good to see you. There is a provincial flood watch for waterways across southern Ontario. Waterways are going to be running higher and faster because of snowmelt and rain, and there's the risk of flooding because of those things, and also because of ice cover breaking up and ice jams causing overland flooding. So that's a real risk in the next 24 hours. The risk of storms goes up tonight. We've already had some thunderstorms in southwestern Ontario and south of the border. This low is a little earlier in arriving. Thunderstorms and heavy rain, and we'll have higher amounts of rain where we get any thunderstorm downpours. 15 to 30 millimeters of rain generally for the GTA, 401 East, 400 up towards Barrie. The warm front's going to lift in tonight. That will warm up our temperatures. We'll reach our Friday high pre-dawn tomorrow. But ahead of that low, although it's warm in the air, it's cold at the surface. So freezing rain ice pellets, we may get some very icy, glazy surfaces. Heaviest rain overnight tonight, so it's not ice-covered roads or sidewalks tomorrow morning. It'll be deep puddles. And although the heaviest rain will be done by then, still light rain through the morning hours, and the winds really picking up out of the southwest. Gusts could near 90 kilometers an hour along the shoreline. So a very blustery day, sustained winds 30, 40 kilometers an hour through the afternoon once that cold front comes through. Becoming colder, and our afternoon high will settle at about 2 degrees for Friday. Notice we are chillier, back to seasonal, and then a little below into next week. Now, plenty of active weather and snow to start things off. Meanwhile, south of the border, Cincinnati's been close to 20 degrees today. Why do we care about that? Well, that temperature contrast between them and us in the GTA, closer to zero, that temperature range helping to drive some deep convection, and the fact that we've had these bursts of heavy wet snow right around the Golden Horseshoe for the rush hour period. Transitioning over to green, which is rain, and the radar you could see very active. Every 10 minutes on the 10s, you'll see your local current radar and a mix of precipitation types to start in Ontario, but really going over to rain. And that's why there's a provincial flood watch in place through Friday. We'll get the bulk of the rain tonight. We'll get snowmelt. And of course, that means fast flowing rivers and streams. Getting away from the rivers, how about the roadways, not the waterways? Well, that was hard to see in the studio from just across the parking lot. Warm front moves in. Warm fronts typically bring warm air, and that's what's going to be happening tonight. We will see winds, and they will start to mix up the atmosphere, but I just am highlighting the warm air here because the warm air, the snow melt, more moisture into the atmosphere, so fog. Thick fog is likely in patches, and rain very heavy overnight tonight, a major storm system, and the cold front. Once it goes through, tomorrow morning, light rain, easing to showers, then very gusty winds. So quite a transition, Natalie, coming up, but through the evening hours. Yeah, thanks, Natalie. Good context with this story. And those thick, slushy puddles, something that we're all going to be contending with. That will have an impact for your drive. As a pedestrian, that could have an impact. You want to stay well away from those. The appropriate footwear. And, of course, as a homeowner, if you've got any areas around the house that you're concerned about the water pooling and ponding, there is the very real risk of not only street flooding and overland flooding with rivers and ice jams, but also the possibility of some flooding in and around your property. Now, windy weather comes on Friday. We get the big warm up, and it is a messy system. There's snow falling right now in northern Ontario. It's a winter storm for them. It's a freezing rain story for parts of eastern Ontario, southern Quebec in the overnight hours to come. Then rainfall. So if you're skiing this weekend, which I'm thinking about, I'd expect the snowpacks to compact, and then they're going to have to groom it so it's not too icy. Speaking of icy, icier, colder conditions coming for us, but you know, coming up on Force of Nature, why Newfoundlanders could be amongst the winter weariest in Canada. That's ahead.